what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Welcome to another adventure here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie. Unfortunately, my co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett, is not feeling well. He's a little under the weather. He's still taking care of his wife after she's post-surgical. So we gave him the day off. So please keep C.S. Bennett and his wife in your prayers. And he hopefully will be back with us next week. Anyway, we got ourselves a great show lined up. A lot to talk about, a lot going on. We have our friend Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times joining us at the 3 o'clock hour. And after that, we got a friend of ours, hasn't been on the show for a while, but I've known him for quite a long time, Trevor Loudon. He has the New Zeal blog. He's also an author and a filmmaker. And there's a new film that they're coming out with, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. And we're going to talk about that with him, as well as the events that are going on today. We've got the wildfires still going on like crazy in California. And as of yesterday, FEMA was going to cut off the vouchers for people to stay one more night. They still don't have their homes. They're in the height of a cold season. We've got a major cold front coming through Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, freezing temperatures and snow. And FEMA wants to kick these people out of their hotels. Shame on them. We also have Trump. His verdict has come, not the verdict, but the guilty conviction has come through. So the left now is going crazy, being able to say he's a convicted felon. And I stand by Judge Napolitano and saying, I will not call him that because the charges did not warrant a felony conviction. But we'll see what's going to go on. A lot to talk about and a lot to do. So thank you for joining us here, and let's get started. I'm going to move things a little ahead so we give ourselves a little time on the other end before Mark comes in to start discussing the other issues. So what I want to do today is to start off by doing our dedication to a fallen hero. And each and every show starts off with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Deputy Sheriff Bradley Reckling, who was shot and killed while conducting surveillance on a stolen vehicle in Detroit. His end of watch was Saturday, June 22nd of 2024. So let me pull up that dedication.
We begin tonight with the Romeo community rallying around fallen Oakland County Deputy Brad Reckling. Thank you so much for joining us for 7 News Detroit at 6. I'm Mike Duffy. Reckling was shot and killed in Detroit on Saturday. He leaves behind a wife and 3 kids. Police arrested 3 men in connection to his death, but the clock is ticking to charge them. If they are not arraigned within 72 hours of their arrest, police will have to release them. And that time will expire later tonight. 7 News Detroit's Faraz Javed takes a look at the life of Deputy Reckling and how his friends in hometown are honoring his memory.
For Zach Williams, running Dalco Services, a landscaping company, is a breeze. But this week, the 30-year-old is struggling with something as simple as writing a letter. A work in progress, a speech for his high school friends' candlelight vigil.
Brad, a selfless individual that was a father, a brother, a husband, and most of all, a protector of all of us.
It's for slain Oakland County Deputy Bradley Reckling, who was shot and killed late Saturday night on Detroit's east side while working undercover.
Which aspect of writing the speech is hard for you right now?
It's hard to put into words the feeling that I carry.
Zach and Brad met at Romeo High School in 2009. Zach says they instantly became friends because they shared common interests, including playing football, weightlifting, and working in construction.
He was strong, his shoulders were back, he'd have a grin from ear to ear, he'd ask how you were doing, what he could do to help.
How was he as a football player?
He was a good football player. He could hit very hard. He would play outside linebacker. He had a heart of a lion.
With 9 years of law enforcement experience, Deputy Reckling was assigned to the Oakland County Sheriff's Auto Theft Unit. Saturday night, the 30-year-old was following a stolen vehicle in the area of Park Grove and Shaner when one of the suspects got out and opened fire, hitting Reckling multiple times.
What was the first thing that came to your mind about him?
A beautiful, strong soul that is gone way too early.
Now the community, especially Reckling's hometown, the village of Romeo, is coming together. Reckling's high school classmates, Bailey Farrell and Brooke Bocci, are organizing a candlelight vigil tomorrow for the fallen hero who is survived by a pregnant wife and 3 kids.
When he walked into the room, he was the highlight. He was goofy, he was funny, he would make everybody laugh.
And we're going to have some speakers, including some of his high school coaches, as well as bagpipes and just some beautiful stories.
Now the candlelight vigil will be held tomorrow at 9 p.m. right behind me at Romeo High School's football stadium. A table will also be set up to collect donations for Reckling's family. You can also donate online. Just head to wxyz.com for all the details. In Romeo, I'm Faraz Javed, 7 News Detroit.
Thank you, Faraz. And stay with 7 News Detroit as we continue to follow this heartbreaking case every step of the way.
Turning now to our other top story, the wife of slain Oakland County Sheriff's Deputy Bradley Reckling speaking out today about bail reform laws. Deputy Reckling was senselessly killed in Detroit back in June. We were there as his family, friends, and colleagues said goodbye, their hearts heavy forever. Deputy Reckling's widow and Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard say more should be done to keep violent criminals in jail. 7 News Detroit reporter Tiara Braddock bringing us their very important conversation.
As state lawmakers are looking at bail reform, Jacqueline Reckling, the widow of Oakland County Deputy Bradley Reckling, spoke out on Friday about how she thinks the current law surrounding bail in our state played a role in her husband's murder.
Had some of these decisions been different, had his bond not been reduced, maybe Brad would have still been here and I would have still had my husband and my kids would still have their dad.
Jacqueline Reckling is talking about the 18-year-old man accused of shooting and killing her husband. Deputy Bradley Reckling was gunned down back in June as he was following a stolen vehicle with 3 suspects inside of it. One of those suspects got out of the vehicle and opened fire.
The holidays are coming up, which is really tough. It's a time of joy and celebrating family. And instead we just have a really big hole in ours.
According to Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard, at the time of Reckling's murder, 2 of the 3 suspects were out on bond for other alleged crimes. Those crimes included armed robbery and carrying a concealed weapon.
If you committed a violent crime and have shown the propensity to continue to do so, you need to be behind bars for the public safety and for the victims of your previous crimes.
Currently, state lawmakers are discussing bills that will require judges to take a defendant's ability to pay into consideration when setting cash bail.
We need to be very careful about incarcerating someone before the sentence is handed down.
State Representative Luke Meerman is one of the lawmakers sponsoring the bail reform bills. He says the laws will prevent putting suspects in nonviolent crimes who can't afford a high bond in jail.
Bail should be there in order to keep people out of our communities who are a danger to our communities, and they're not a danger to our community, then we don't need to use bail in that case.
Meanwhile, Jacqueline Reckling says while lawmakers are considering changes to bail laws, more needs to be done to keep violent offenders behind bars.
I think it's really important to bring awareness to the fact that the decisions that these judges are making, they impact life and death.
In Pontiac, Tiara Braddock, 7 News Detroit.
All right, today's show is dedicated to Deputy Sheriff Bradley J. Reckling. It's also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. We also dedicate it to all the brave men and women that serve in the military, the birth of this great nation through today and into our hopeful future. And our prayers go out to the firefighters in California that are still battling this blaze. We give to them this song by Tiffany, Soul of the Nation. May God bless each and every one.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free with grace. Let it be seen from sea to shining sea. Beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, challenges known and those still unseen. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation. Be sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation. Let it be said. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation.
Okay, and we are back. You're listening to Southern Sense and watching it live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I figured out how to unblock comments on YouTube on both channels, as well as up on X, as well as on our homepage. So please join us over there also at southernsense.net. I know what I forgot to do. I forgot to pull up that homepage. I'll do that in a split second. But anyway, our co-host Curtis, as I said, he's a little under the weather today, so we gave him the day off. Hopefully he'll be with us again next week. We got two great guests coming up. Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times. He's also the founder of Hill Faith that he's been running for, I guess the last 10, 12 years. Also, we have our friend Trevor Loudon, who will be also joining us at the little after 3 or so, about 3:15, 3:30, about that time. But I want to talk about what's going on out in California. And I've been watching some of the posts that have been going up over it on social media and the things that are coming out about this. I watched a clip where a woman, Gavin Newsom, was in her neighborhood. Her house was burnt to the ground. She was asking him what he was doing. And he had his cell phone up in his hand. He said, well, I'm trying to call, the White House or whatever he was trying to do, looking for help. I don't know. He caused the disaster. Anyway, there's no cell phone service because the cell phone towers went out yesterday. If anyone was watching the fires, the massive field of cell phone towers was taken down by the fire. Elon Musk is sending out Starlink to California to help people get back up on their cell phone. But here Gavin Newsom, knowing full well there's no cell phone service, pretending to make a cell phone call. Here's some interesting stuff that I've been pulling up. The Pacific Palisades Reservoir, which is one of 4 reservoirs, was empty and offline. And this is according to the LA Times. That one reservoir alone would hold 117 million gallons of water and would have given firefighters enough ample pressure to effectively fight the blaze. The fire hydrants had low or no water pressure at all. They were either dry or no pressure whatsoever. So consequently, this has covered 45 square miles, over 29,000 acres. As of this morning, it was listed at $57 billion in economic damage. As of this morning, 180,000 people have been evacuated. Most of them, their homes are gone, completely gone, okay? There's another 200,000 on standby for evacuation. 380,000 people being affected directly by these wildfires. In the interim, they diverted funds in the fire department from hiring quality firefighters and getting good quality equipment and making sure there was enough water in the reservoirs. Instead, they diverted all this money. What is it? Let me see if I can find that figure. Bear with me as I have so many notes here. They had diverted, I think it was something like 1.7 million from the fire department. Now, 1 week before the wildfires broke out, knowing full well that they were going into wildfire season, number one, the LA mayor, Karen Bass, took off for the inauguration of the president in Ghana on the Ivory Coast. What is a mayor in a town, in a city in the United States have to do with a presidential election over in Africa, off the coast of Africa? Nothing. It was a publicity stunt. But 1 week prior, she asks the fire department to trim another $49 million from their budget. 1 week before the wildfires. That very same week, she takes off and disappears, only to come back at the height of the wildfires 2 days ago. That is disgusting. And while they're diverting the money from making sure they have the right amount of things in place, enough water, the hydrants are operable, the reservoirs are full, they have the equipment, the LA Fire Department DEI chief, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion chief, Christine Larson, earns a six-figure salary. And as of 2023, her salary was $399,000, almost $500,000. How many more lives and how much more property could have been saved or would have been saved had that salary been put into the proper place? And what happens? You get someone like Morgan Freeman going on X and calling Trump is the cause of it. Hello? It is your own governor. When the people of the state of California voted for legislation to have him make sure that the water was diverted not into the Pacific Ocean to save the smelt, but into the communities that needed the reservoirs to be full because they were in the path of any wildfire that breaks out. And this is something they have to deal with year in and year out. I'm going to show you a video. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. And this was posted on X by Nick Sorter, S-O-R-T-O-R. Nick Sorter, that's his screen name. He posted this fantastic video. This is the Palisades Reservoir. And just above that picture, the Palisades Reservoir, is a picture of city block after city block after city block of devastation. Take a look at this. This is an overflight of homes in neighborhoods that no longer exist. And as of last night, there were 8 separate wildfires. 8 of them. And yesterday, LA Fox, the Fox News station out of LA, posted a video of a citizen's arrest. A homeless guy on a bicycle goes into a local LA residential area. A woman sees him attempting to light Christmas trees that have been discarded for the garbage, attempting to light garbage pails, attempting to start another arson fire. So they hold him for a citizen's arrest. They do the right thing. She calls for help from the neighbors. Neighbors come over, subdue the guy, put zip ties on him, use rope. Don't beat him up or anything. Hold him for the police. They get arrested, and the police are told they can't charge him with arson. And that's the reports that are coming out right now out of LA. Now, this is one instance. Meanwhile, they have various instances of people going into neighborhoods that have been devastated and looting whatever's left. Whatever is left on their property, they're going there and looting it. Now, Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham, God bless him, was on Newsmax yesterday. And it might have been Greta Van Susteren that was interviewing him, if I remember correctly, and asking what he had prepared to do for the LA. And he explained, well, once everything is contained and people are then allowed to go back, only then will they go back in to help them go through and sift through the rubble. And sometimes they find things like maybe someone's wallet that may have had important cards and identification is safe, pieces of jewelry, photo albums, scraps of their lives. And sometimes that is the most important thing to someone that has just lost everything, to finding that someone cares enough to help them sift through the rubble, to go through those ashes and find some part of them that still exist. And I think that is amazing. So there are agencies lining up to help, but I'm hearing recently, just posted up on X, that Hunter Biden's property in the Pacific Palisades is gone. Let's see how fast this administration reacts to that, and how much Hunter is going to get help, and how much the rest of the people that are displaced are going to get help. Oh, wait a minute. We know how that acts. We see it in North Carolina, where a mere $700 are given, a voucher from FEMA so they can have someplace to stay at a hotel or a shelter. And FEMA saying, no, you got a voucher for 24 more hours, and then you're out on the street in the height of a winter snap that is hitting the eastern seaboard. from Georgia through South Carolina through North Carolina. Right now, a plane landed in Atlanta and they had to use the emergency slides because they couldn't safely bring them to the terminal. That's how bad the weather is in Atlanta. Right now, we're not getting hit too hard with it, but up country, yeah, there's snow here in South Carolina and up in North Carolina happening right now. We still have people displaced from the wildfires in Hawaii. We have disaster after disaster after disaster under this administration, and we see how they react. And yet we see billions upon billions going to over Ukraine. We see billions upon billions going into illegal aliens being given food stamps and shelter and clothing and medical attention and education and housing and you name it. Oh, don't forget the debit cards they're given to at the same time and free cell phones. And yet we're going to now have, I don't know how many homeless Americans coming out of California from the wildfires. How many homeless Americans we have in North Carolina because of Hurricane Helene and FEMA is stepping away. How many homeless we still have in Hawaii that haven't seen anything done to their neighborhood. That's this administration, folks. That is this administration. And it is despicable. It is despicable. But there is, oh, here it is. And I found the figure. It was not 1.7 million that was already cut. It was 17.4 million in cuts that were made earlier. My bad. I knew I printed out the information here. The timing is nothing short of disastrous because now 16 fire stations were slated to be closed, leaving the city vulnerable to this disaster. Going to close 16 fire stations, and you live in an area that's full of wildfires. You had the citizens that tell the governor, we're giving you the money, fill these reservoirs, and make sure we're protected from wildfires. But where'd that money go? No one knows. It didn't go to where it was supposed to go. So Gavin Newsom, you have a lot to answer for. As of this broadcast, 10 people have died. We don't know how many more are buried in the rubble yet. We don't know how many homeless encampments have been lost to these wildfires because we don't know how many or where the homeless encampments are. But we're going to find out, I think, once we sift through this rubble. So not only did they cut 17.4 million, she asked for another 49 million. And she takes a flight, probably courtesy of you, the taxpayer, to go to Ghana to see the inauguration of a president that no one here probably in the United States even cares about. But one shining hope. The way fellow everyday Americans will step forward, and they have been stepping forward. But Elon Musk is setting up the Starlink cell phone service for those that have lost their cell phone due to these wildfires. So we're going to see groups like the Red Cross, Samaritan's Purse, and countless others, other nameless people that are going to step forward. Americans, you're great. Heart of gold. But we've got to get this wokeism out of our lives. We've got to get back to our founding principles here, folks. I don't know what else to say at this, but this is what is happening here. And if anything, the people of LA should recall the mayor. And if anything, the people from the state of California should recall Gavin Newsom. It is time. Someone told Gavin Newsom, you're not going to be president of the United States. We're going to recall you from office, and we're going to vote someone in there that's going to protect our properties, our lives, and our rights. Enough is enough, folks. Enough is enough. This election proved that the heart of America is still beating. Well, folks, here we are, of course, this nation supporting everyone that's had this wokeism shoved down their throat to the point where they've lost lives, they've lost their property, they've lost their hope. Let's stand up for them. Let's do what's right. Anyway, One other thing we're going to talk about as soon as our friend Mark Tapscott does call in is about the sentencing today. President Trump went before Judge Marchand virtually, and Judge Marchand turned around and called him, oh, good Lord, I know I'm going to screw this up. Oh, Annie, come on, get your act together here. Oh, he sentenced him on all things. And we got Mark Tapscott joining us because right now I've got a major brain fart on my hands. They just had pulled sentence on Trump, and I'm trying to think about how Marchand worded it, where he didn't sentence him to any time or penalty. What was the thing they called it? I've got a brain fart.
And now I am. I think it's unconditional release.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Unconditional release. In other words, he finds him, sentences him, yes, you're now a felon for 34 counts of what was never even intended to be a misdemeanor. All right. And so, yeah, now you're a convicted felon. You can't own a gun. You can't vote in a federal election. You can't travel to certain countries like Canada. And how is that, as a convicted felon, giving him access to certain information and areas as president that a felon would be barred from?
I tell you, Annie, this whole thing has been ridiculous. Doesn't even begin to describe it, at least in my view. And I'm not a lawyer; I'm just a journalist. But my understanding is the whole process is so full of reversible errors.
Oh yeah.
Or the legal experts that I've talked with or heard discussing it, it seems all but inevitable that it ultimately will be reversed in a federal court, maybe the Supreme Court. I don't know, but I think it was Justice Gorsuch in the opinion, the 5-4 opinion yesterday. Basically said this whole thing is nonsense.
It is. And because I was following the trial and having had to sit before a grand jury and testify in court in my duties, I'm thinking that as I'm watching this, they never said what the underlying crime was.
Right.
So they convicted him of these felonies of altering his business records. And I thought he was rather tame when he made his address before the court today. You expected to see the typical Donald Trump throwing the darts, but he was rather calm, quiet, and quite measured, and basically said, if you charge this with any businessman, you can charge just about any person in the state of New York with these charges.
Yeah.
Having owned a business in New York, a couple of them, hey, accounting errors do happen. You hand everything over to your accountant. You say, all right, you just do the books. I'll sign it. You just show me where to sign.
Yep.
Which is, he's leading several different corporations, and that's what he does. And yet he's the one that's responsible for the line entry in the accounting books.
Well, that whole logic, quote unquote logic of which the case, Bragg's case, was built on that point. It had to assume that Trump was completely aware of what was being done and all of the legal implications of what was being done. That's a house of cards, it sounds like to me. I can't imagine that it won't be reversed.
No, I cannot imagine it either. But yet now they have to go through the appellate process, which will take years, which means by the time he leaves office, he will still be a convicted felon until he can get everything reversed. And yet the damage has been done. And I'm asking now how is this going to restrict his powers as president?
I think for precisely those questions that you were just listing, it would not surprise me a bit for the president to ask the Supreme Court for expedited hearing on it. And I frankly would not be surprised if the court agreed. And we might see a ruling from the high court pretty quickly. One would hope, because, when you have felony on your record, that creates problems.
Oh, that it does. It does. It's very interesting, and I want to see where it goes. And I do hope that it goes the path you say it does. And I'm sure his attorneys already have everything lined up. It's just a matter of ready to fire the shots out of the cannon.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, we've got 10 days until less than 10 days, because 12 o'clock he does his signing in.
Yeah.
Less than 10 days.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exciting to see what happens over the next 9 days and how many hours?
Too many.
But on the other side, it seems like Mark Zuckerberg seems to have had a come to Jesus moment, where he's openly saying now that, the government has actually called us, cursed us out, and told us to take down these posts. So I'm about ready to post to Mark Zuckerberg going, can I have my Facebook pages back now?
I tell you, I think Zuckerberg's actions in recent weeks, as well as those of some other folks in Silicon Valley, are a great illustration that, like I think Churchill said, the prospect of being hung in the morning really wakes you up. I think the prospect of Donald Trump coming back as president really woke some people up in Silicon Valley. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit if the minute that Trump leaves office, we see some more changes back to the way it was,
Well, that means that we have to make sure we get J.D. Vance to follow him.
Yeah.
At least give us hope for another 8 years.
I have to tell you, Annie, I have a direct experience with this issue, because about 3 weeks ago, Hill Faith got an email or a notification from a guy in Poland who was a Facebook fact checker, saying that the Hill Faith website, which is absolutely nonpartisan and non-controversial, was going to be taken down for violations of Facebook's, I forget exactly what they called it, but he never said in the message, here's the page, here's the offending words or illustration or whatever it was. So I responded back, tell me specifically what you're talking about. Never got an answer. And then 3 days ago or a week ago, we hear about these new changes at Meta. So maybe that's why we escaped being taken down.
Yeah, it's possible. It is possible. But, we also saw now, because of Trump coming in, the Obama era censorship office is being axed.
4 years too late.
Meanwhile, I've had my YouTube channels taken down. I've had my Facebook pages taken down. I mean, I have to open up whole new accounts and start back at square one. But you mentioned Hill Faith, and, I apologize not mentioning it more often, but that's how you and I originally met and got together, because
Yes, it was.
you started Hill Faith, which you're still running.
Yes.
So just let people know what Hill Faith is, so that they're aware of what we're talking about. Because, you had me crying when you first told me what you were doing.
Well, I don't remember you crying, but
well, we didn't do video back then, so
that's right. See. That's right. Yeah. Well, very simply, I've been in Washington since literally 1977. I came up here when I was 27 years old to help Ronald Reagan save America, and that didn't happen until 1980. But I worked on the Hill. I worked in the Reagan administration. And then I became a journalist, and I've been a journalist ever since then, 1985. And Washington's many, many temptations seduced this innocent young man from Oklahoma when I came up here, and I ran away from my faith for a long time. And one morning in 1991, the Lord opened my eyes, and I realized, Mark, you've made a wreck out of your life, and you're a hypocrite to boot. Because I would tell you I was a Christian, but I didn't act it and I didn't speak it, you know. And that turned me around in 1991. Wasn't an instant change, but over time he has. I have to tell you, Annie, I am not the person I was, and praise the Lord for that. And 5 years ago, he called me to, Mark, you're on Capitol Hill all the time. Capitol Hill is where your life got off track. You need to share the gospel with these young people who you see every day and think to yourself, that was me 30 years ago. I wish I'd known then what I know now about how Jesus can change your life. So that's why Hill Faith came about. And at the same time, the Lord also provided, Paul was a tent maker on his mission trips. That's how he supported himself. This job with Epoch Times covering Congress, which is my favorite place, came at the same time as the Hill Faith calling. They weren't connected, but it wasn't
Maybe they are.
coincidental.
Maybe they are.
So-
You just didn't see the connection.
Well, it dawned on me very quickly, boy, this is perfect. And so I get to do professionally what I love to do, which is covering Congress, covering politics. And I get I'm always in the place where opportunities come up in private conversations to talk to folks about the Lord. Thank you for allowing me to tell readers of our audience about that.
Yeah, I apologize. I put it down in the
No
comments,
problem.
but just you get so tied up with what's going on, you forget what the important part is behind it also.
Amen.
So that's what I want people to understand, why you are our favorite person to come on.
You must be desperate.
Well, unfortunately, Curtis is not with us. He's a little under the weather today, and his wife had surgery recently, and you know how it is taking care of a wife and you're not feeling the hottest.
Yeah.
It tries the patience of Job.
Well, I hope he's back to the next time we
Well,
talk.
hopefully he will be. He will be. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, talking about a person of faith, is Speaker Johnson. And I was watching avidly the certification, and I was waiting to see a lot more fireworks than I expected. And it went off rather smoothly, I think, honestly, considering with McCarthy, it was 15 votes, and with him, it was just 1 vote. Do you see any more challenges to him, or do you think they're going to finally work everything out and smoothing everything over?
I think the next 6 months are going to be extremely difficult for Speaker Johnson, and they would be extremely difficult for anybody who had the title Speaker of the House with a majority, 1 or 2 votes. It's going to be a tough road. I think, though, that one thing that became clear, at least to some people on the Hill that I've talked with, Mike Johnson is smarter than people gave him credit for.
Oh, yeah.
They were prepared for the kind of situation that developed when Tom Massey made it absolutely crystal clear he was a hard no. And that made it clear what they had to be prepared to do. And it wasn't coincidental that Ralph Norman and Congressman Self from Texas, had that private little meeting off the floor and came away persuaded that, they needed to get back on the team, and they did. So I would have given my eye teeth to have been a mouse in the room to have heard those conversations.
No, he's what we call a sleeper. You think that you got something that you can pull over on him. He just doesn't say much. But once he acts, he acts. So I'm hoping that he does maintain the job. You need someone that can work both sides of the aisle, but yet not give up on your core principles.
Exactly. And I mean, the founders of this country, when they put together the Constitution and the federal government as three branches, and each branch with its own powers and incentives to check abuses by the other branch, they did the same thing with the Congress. The House has the unique power of starting spending or stopping spending. And that gives the House tremendous power to counterbalance abuses by the Senate or by a president or even by a court, because the House has tremendous power over the federal court system. So, we ought to expect our representatives to realize going into it, nobody is going to get everything that they want. You better get really good at negotiating good deals. You might read a book by this guy Trump called The Art of the Deal or whatever.
It's the shelf behind me.
Yeah. That would be a good place to start, because we're all going to have to compromise. We're not going to get everything we want. But that's the beauty of the American system.
Well, we've got less than 10 days. I know you're going to be there at the inauguration. I'm going to miss you this time, so I'm not going to be there.
Well, we'll be back, I'm sure.
We'll enjoy it, and we will see you in 2 weeks and talk to you about the latest that's coming up.
You got it.
And God bless. And don't forget, people, to go to hillfaith.org also.
Thanks, Annie. See you later.
Take care. All right, Mark Tapscott, check him at the Epoch Times, and we'll bring on a friend of mine that has not been with us for a while, and shame on me, Trevor Loudon. And,
hi, Annie.
I was thinking back to when you and I first met, and oh my God, it had to been almost 13 years ago, more?
Yeah, right back 2012, 2013, around that time.
2012. You had just come. It was the second, actually it was the first South Carolina Tea Party Coalition convention.
Yep.
It was the very first one. So yeah, it would be 2012. And I just remembered, I was thinking back, picturing everything in my mind the day we met, and you were like a little puppy dog lost in the crowd. And my late husband and I took you under our wing.
You did. It was all very unfamiliar to me, I have to say. And but you did. I remember you guys, and thanks for saving me. I might still be wandering around today if you hadn't found me.
But look what we built you into.
Yep, it's all due to you, Eddie.
Well, listen, you got yourself involved with this film, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. And when I first met you, you were looking to emigrate to the United States and become a citizen. And you went through a huge ordeal. It took you a long number of years. But you also had a unique perspective coming from where you were, underneath the government there, and coming here to the United States, and then watching how things have changed over the years since you've been here. Tell us how you got roped into this, the film.
Well, I was approached by Julie Belling, the woman who made it. She's followed my work for some time. She wanted to do a work connecting the dots, on how communism is being implemented in modern America, because she spent time in Russia not long after the fall of the Soviet Union and did a lot of research on how communism was implemented there, especially in the churches, especially suppressing religions that were not popular, etc. So she got me involved, in James Lindsay and Alex Newman, I'm sure you know them, and several other people, including some former Russian Christians, to make a movie that would connect the dots for people. Because most Americans, when they talk about communism, they think of Leonid Brezhnev and, tanks rolling down Red Square, and they think of it in terms of the 80s and command economies. Well, modern communism is a transgender movement, the open borders movement. It's the anti-fracking movement. It's the It's wokeness in Hollywood, and wokeness in the churches, and labor unions getting out of control. It's a whole mishmash of things unified by the Chinese Communist Party to bring America to its knees. You know, Black Lives Matter, all of it. All of this is manifestations of modern communism. And so we got a great opportunity under President Trump to roll this back, but the American people have to understand what it is and understand why what Trump has to do is necessary and be willing to pitch in. And that's why I think the movie is so absolutely valuable. That's why everybody should watch this movie.
Well, I'm going to play the trailer for it. So let's pull this up and play that.
One of the most consequential lies of history is that Karl Marx put forth an economic theory or doctrine. He did not. He put forth a totalitarian religion. This was a rape of the body of Christ.
He said the ultimate objective was to destroy Christianity. Those were his words.
And Khrushchev bragged about it. We'll take America without firing a shot.
Hi, I'm here to impoverish, enslave, and murder you.
They were actual communists.
The result you can see.
We have to stay woke.
There are ravening wolves in sheep's clothing all over the place.
That's scary with Michelle's laugh at the very end.
Yeah, Kamala's cackle.
Kamala's
cackle, so to speak. Yeah, but it's a very impactful movie, very emotionally engaging, and one of the most profound movies I've ever been involved in. And I don't have a financial stake in this, so I'm not saying this for commercial gain. I'm just saying I want every American to see this, because it will open your eyes in ways that haven't been done before, connect the dots that you haven't been seen before, and will entertain you in the process.
You know, people can go to the website, which is beneathsheepsclothing.movie.
Yeah.
And they can actually look at it and look at the trailer. They can actually get the movie themselves, too.
Yeah, they can get a hard copy, or they can live stream it. You know, they can not pay-per-view, whatever. So they can watch it through their computer or get a hard DVD or whatever. But it's selling pretty darn well. It's all over the place. And I was just out in California yesterday, and they said, "Oh, we're going to have a video screening for our whole group tomorrow night. It's going to be this movie Beneath Sheep's Clothing." And I said, "Well, I'm in it. I just spoke to you today. I'm in it tomorrow, you know." So it's all over, not just in America either. It's doing very well internationally.
Oh, that's great. Because as you know, I still run a tea party 15 years later. Actually, this will be going on 16 years. Holy cow, this March will be 16 years.
Wow.
And we're
haven't changed, Danny. You haven't changed since I first met you.
I'm grayer, a little fatter.
No, not at all. You haven't changed.
Well, this coming the 20th, for our meeting, we're having an inauguration party. So I do plan on doing your movie. And when I do, I will let you know that I'm doing it.
Great.
We've done this before.
Yeah.
We've done this before where we've had, oh God, I'm having major brain farts today. A couple other people that we've had on the show, I've had their movies that we've premiered in our tea party. But what I found was last week, unfortunately, we missed you, or the last show that we missed you at. We had a woman that was from the Soviet bloc. Matter of fact, she was a friend with Vladimir Bukovsky. And
I used to correspond with Bukovsky years ago.
Yeah.
So I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, matter of fact, he was supposed to be on the show, and about 2 weeks before he was scheduled is when he passed away.
Right. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Yeah, he is an extremely brave man,
Yeah. Well, she was best friends with him for 40 years. Up until his death, she was at his side. So we had her on last week. So a lot of what was in your movie is what we also discussed also. And how today, where we think the Soviet Union is free, under Putin has actually reverted.
Oh,
And-
look, Putin is a neo-communist. You know, this myth that some people have subscribed to, that Putin is a Christian, he's going to save us from the Muslim hordes. You know, he convened the world's largest gathering of communist youth in 2017. He did another one in Moscow earlier this year. His troops are putting up statues to Lenin in the occupied territories of the Donetsk and Luhansk. His tanks have hammer and sickles on them. Yes, absolutely, he's reverting back to communist times.
Because one of the things also is Franklin Graham has said he has not been able to bring missionaries back into the Soviet Union, much less Moscow. They used to distribute Bibles.
Well, listen, this is the point that Julie Beeling made. She was a missionary in Russia straight after the so-called collapse of communism, which was more a strategic retreat than a collapse. And she studied what the Soviets did. They invited all these churches in, and they built partnerships with them. They got them to build big buildings and churches, and then they'll kick them all out. You know, the people say, "Oh, Russia's a Christian country." About a quarter or less of the number of Russians go to church each week than do in America. But the thing is this: you've got to go to the Russian Orthodox Church, which is completely controlled by the KGB. If you want to be a Baptist or a Episcopalian or anything else, you can have your little church, but you're not allowed to educate your children in the church till they're 18, and you cannot proselytize outside the church. So the Russian authorities brought all these American churches in, ripped them off, stole their money, and kicked them out. But Russia's a Christian country, right?
Exactly. But this was what Marx wanted. He wanted to weaken us from within by controlling religion, which brings me to the point where why does radical Islam get so long a well with Moscow? Because because Moscow, their government is their religion. The same with radical Islam. Their government is their religion. That's why they make great bedfellows.
Well, look, both are top-down systems. Both believe in authoritarianism, and so they're willing to cooperate. But there's a deeper reason. So when the communists took over the Soviet Union, established the Soviet Union in the 20s, they vigorously repressed Christian churches. They slaughtered priests. They closed down nunneries and monasteries and just massacred people. But they didn't do that to the Muslims, because the Muslims were much less under control. They were spread all through Central Asia, and they were only barely under Russian control. And the Russians knew if they tried to crack down on Islam like they did Christianity, they would have a mass revolt on their hands. So they treated Islam differently. They didn't challenge or shut down the mosques. They infiltrated them. They infiltrated the mosques and madrasas and basically set up a form of Soviet Islam. They combined the Soviet ideology with Islam, which was quite compatible, and co-opted Islam rather than destroying it like they did to Christianity. So then they used that Islam as a battering ram against the West. They used it later on to set up the Palestine Liberation Organization and Hamas and even Al-Qaeda. So there's been this red-green axis for some time where the communists, continuing under Putin, you know, he's got a whole bunch of Chechens in Ukraine right now fighting Ukraine, all swearing loyalty to Allah and Vladimir Putin. And so this red-green axis has been going on for a long time. We see it in America with all the anti-Israel protests on the streets. That's the Communist Party USA, Democratic Socialists of America, Party for Socialism and Liberation, Freedom Road Socialist Organization, with Students for Justice in Palestine, the Muslim Student Association, Council on American Islamic Relations. They're doing all of these anti-Israel protests, violent, and they are the red and the green working together because they both hate Israel, they both hate America, and they may fight each other over our corpses, but that's a little too late. Just a minute. See, this is our. I just noticed our 2016 movie, Enemies Within. You know, the red for the red for the hammer and sickle, the green crescent, the red green axis. So we were talking about this back in 2016.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we as Americans, we don't think that our freedom is at risk simply because we identify as Americans. But what we are finding now is that we've got people coming into our nation. They're not assimilating into society. They're taking the values from the countries they left and forcing them in on us here. So we see the indoctrination within our education system. We see our indoctrination in the corporate boardroom. We see the indoctrination in our political system.
Yeah.
And it is nonstop indoctrination. How dare you fight what everyone else thinks? You can't swim upstream. You got to swim with the rest of us.
Well, that's been a very long-term process. You know, under Ted Kennedy in the 60s, they changed the immigration, and this was guided by the communist movement, changed immigration to welcome refugees and immigrants from the third world. And that doesn't necessarily mean to say they're bad people, but what it is, you know, you're getting millions of new people in the country that do not share your values, that are either Muslim, they come from totalitarian countries, they have communist sympathies, they have a very different religion and culture to the existing one in the United States. So they want to set up what they left in America. They want to set up enclaves of Islam, like they have in, for instance, in Michigan. They want to set up little communist enclaves. So the policy of flooding the country with third world immigrants and later illegal immigrants and also refugees from Islamic countries was all orchestrated by the communists to destroy the conservative voting political base in America and change the culture away from a constitutional republic to either a Sharia type of operation or a socialist communist operation. You know, it's all designed. Look, every enemy, the Muslim, the Muslim radicals, the communists, they're not. Both of them have a common enemy. It's America and Israel. America, Israel. Israel's a little Satan. America's a big Satan. If they can take down America, they can rule the world. They know that.
As long as they control the intellectual class and the media. But they're finding this last election, it's not going to be all that easy, is it?
No, well, look, this is the reason I hate Trump. Because whether Trump is aware of it or not, he's destroying 60 years of communist and Islamic infiltration. You know, and because the whole mechanism for taking America, creating a one-party state in this country is the old Jesse Jackson Rainbow Coalition of the 80s. You get all the minorities together. You get the white radicals, the black radicals, the brown radicals, the yellow radicals, the red radicals, the lavender radicals, and this is their terminology, not mine, and unite them, use the change of demographics to the point you have a majority. This is the Obama coalition, for instance. And so you get the minority populations outnumbering the native population, and you use that to impose socialism on America. And Trump, by appealing to social conservative values and make America great again values, has drawn millions of young black people, Latinos, Asian Americans, a lot of minorities are now moving into the conservative camp. And and by challenging the mainstream media and their fake news, he's destroyed their credibility. So he's taking control of much more of the narrative. So yeah, the left are very upset with Trump on multiple levels.
Well, they like to appeal to the quote oppressed, as you were naming them, the radical left. They promise them equal outcomes, but in reality, human nature doesn't allow for equal outcomes. There's no such thing. We're all individuals. We all have separate different talents. We come at things from different areas. There never will be an equal outcome across the board.
And we should never want there to be.
So
what is good about that? You know, there's no two atoms in the universe that are identical. And human beings, the most developed life form that we know of, are as individual as you can possibly get. So we should be welcoming that. We should be saying, you're an individual, you live your life to your maximum potential. And if you do great, we celebrate that. And if you don't do so great, we'll try and help you do a little bit better. But if you persist in stupidity, accept the outcome. You know, you can serve as an example to everybody else of what not to do. And that's valuable in itself.
Now, is that not the exact message that now the minorities that are coming over to the conservative side are seeing?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're seeing that the equal outcome doesn't measure up to what their expectations.
You know, so I think it was Thatcher called socialism the equal sharing of misery. Yeah, you can be equal. You can all live on poverty wages and depend on the government. You've all pretty much got the same. Wow, great, miserable. You know, I'd rather a society where some flourish, some become great artists, some become great sportsmen. Many people start their own businesses. Everybody uses their gifts to the maximum, and you can only do that in a free society. And that means some people will do better than others, and a few will fail. But even those who fail, you know, Henry Ford failed 3 times. You know, most successful people, artists, businessmen, whatever, fail multiple times. Failure in itself is not the end of your life. And so you have to be free to fail. You have to be free to succeed. And only by having a free society can we move all of us forward so that everybody has the maximum shot. No matter what you do, some people are always going to be self-destructive. But the majority of the people will take the opportunities that freedom gives them to achieve something meaningful in their lives. And that's the kind of society we need. And that's what we are moving towards now. And I believe many countries are moving towards now.
Well, we're very hopeful that we can stay that way, because what we're seeing, and I was watching an ad that was put out just yesterday from the Democrats in the Senate. And if it wasn't so sad, it would have been funny. But what they're looking to do is to fight the limited government that Trump is going to represent, that he's bringing in Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy into, that the public is screaming for. They want to consolidate their power to create the tyranny, which is communism.
Yeah, look, the Democratic Party now is a communist party. The leadership of the Democratic Party are almost all communists to some degree or another, from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to, I could name a whole list of senators. I write about them in my book, so you can see them behind me, about the security risk senators and House Un-Americans. The Democratic Party is a communist party now. So they're going to fight this tooth and claw. And especially when the deportations start, that's going to drive them nuts. So the communist parties are already getting ready to protest Trump's inauguration. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization, which organized the Black Lives Matter protests, the George Floyd protest, that was a pro-Chinese communist party that organized that, are getting ready now to protest Trump's inauguration. So I tell people we're not out of the woods, and I expect periods of disruption going forward and strikes and probably attacks on infrastructure. So keep your supplies, keep your food stocks, keep your generators, keep your gas supplies, because there could be some disruption. And I don't tell people say that to scare people, but to be prepared, because the road through that is the road back to a free America.
You know, it's funny because everyone's watching the wildfires going on in California. And if anything,
I was just there yesterday. I was in the red sun, the black haze over everything. the scum on the top of the swimming pool in the place I was staying at, the ash everywhere. Yeah, I wasn't in the middle. I was in the middle of it, but yeah, I was there.
But anything speaks of what wokeism and the thrust of communism into our lifestyle has done, because he's got the highest taxes, he's got the highest poverty rate, he's got the highest number of people fleeing the state, the highest unemployment, and now he's got the largest disaster in the United States in the last 4 years.
Well, that's the key thing. Wokeism is communism. Wokeism means consciousness raising. This is a communist term that was popular in the Cultural Revolution in China in the 60s. That's what wokeism is. It's Marxism. So you go to woke church, you're going to a Marxist church. But look at what has happened in California. The communist environmentalists, and I'm talking about the Natural Resources Defense Council, Sierra Club, they were run by communists. And they have implemented policies like protecting the Delta smelt, bringing down dams, refusing to build reservoirs, not allowing people to clear brush, not clearing old growth forests, forbidding logging. They have set California and Oregon and other states up for massive fire disasters. This is a direct result of socialism. These socialist environmental policies have set the state up, starving it of water, not allowing people to clear underbrush and all this kind of thing. This was inevitable, right? And some of it may have even been deliberate. Some of it may have been set by terrorists, because we've got plenty of them here. Took advantage of the big winds. They thought, this is the time. This is the time to set some fires. And so, but whether it was deliberate or not, it was caused by socialist policies. And you got Karen Bass, who is a communist, who's been to Cuba 17 times as the mayor of California, and Gavin Newsom, who is a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party, as governor. I am hoping, and I'm sure it'll end, but disaster will end both of their careers, because this has actually affected a lot of rich people for a change. A lot of rich people have been hurt by this. And they're not that. I think it's going to be like 9/11. It's going to wake a lot of people up to the consequence of voting for socialists.
Because I was going over the figures earlier when I started the show, that 180,000 have been evacuated. We don't know how many are now homeless, because we're not sure how many homes have been, and apartments and other complexes have been destroyed. Out of that, I would say probably good 3/4. They have another 200,000 with orders to evacuate on standby. Yeah. 380,000 people in just one small area, the LA, and I'm seeing now it's going down to San Diego. When I went to bed last night, I heard there were 8 separate fires. I woke up this morning, Fox News in LA had a video of some citizens making an arrest of an illegal alien with a torch in his hand. And there's been numerous reports of arrests of possibly illegals now going into these decimated neighborhoods and looting.
Well, look, that's exactly right. And I'll give another possible scenario here. Been hearing reports for some time that Islamic Uzbeks, Chechens, Iranians have been moving into LA for some time, working rideshare jobs, being brought into the city, working rideshare jobs, learning the layout of the city. I got a good friend of mine who's been monitoring this, and she got a call from a police sergeant, a very senior police officer a while back. She said, LA is one disaster away from a new October 7, meaning that when the police are stretched to their maximum, the terrorist infrastructure that's already in LA is going to go on a massive rampage. So that could happen any day. And she's advising her friends. Well, exactly. But she's advising her friends, don't use any rideshare apps. Don't use any of the food delivery apps, because many of these drivers are Muslims who have been coming across the border in very recent times, many with suspected terrorist backgrounds, and they're casing you out. Don't order anything from a Jewish deli and get it delivered by a rideshare app, because they will know who you are. And when the police are stretched to their maximum, which they're going to be in the next few days, I believe, expect to see. And I pray I'm wrong, 100%. I don't welcome this, but I suspect we could see some terrorist outbursts in the Los Angeles area in the next few days, especially before Trump's inauguration.
That's what I fear for. That is definitely what I fear for. Because we saw the use of drones, and already a drone interfered with a aircraft trying to drop water.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. So we're at war with China. We're at war with Iran right now, and they have their people on our soil, and we have their agents running some of our states who are allowing this to fester. They would do anything to stop President Trump taking office. We've got a week to go. I hope it's the most peaceful week we've seen in American history, but I'll be a little bit surprised if it is, because I think we can definitely blame these fires on socialism. Can we also blame them on terrorism? I don't know. I think we'll find out when Trump is inaugurated, but I suspect there is some element there. But I know it's probably at least 100,000 Chinese military in the country now, plus Hezbollah, plus Hamas, plus cartel, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. They're not coming here to go to Vegas. They're coming here to cause trouble. And natural disasters or unnatural disasters like this provide the perfect opportunity to pile on, to cause major havoc.
What struck me really unusual is the areas where the fire started. Normally you get a wildfire and it'll spread to the next. But this is like one area up here, another one down here.
Yeah.
They're
This
separated.
is all over.
It's separated. So you don't have wildfires behave that way. They may jump a highway or jump over a couple of houses.
But they don't jump. They don't jump 30 miles. They don't jump 20 miles.
They do not jump from one town to two towns over.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem as if these are as natural as they would like us to believe. But in the film, you talk about 5 different areas of infiltration. And we already discussed religion, and we already talked about the media and education. But they also have to infiltrate the family.
Yes.
And we're seeing that with the transgenderisms, with separating the education from the parent and the child. We see so many different ways in which they separate the child from the parent. And it brings me to Al Gore, his book, Inconvenient Truth, when he was telling the kids, your parents are too stupid, you got to teach them.
Yeah. This is, see, what is revolution? Revolution is overturning God's natural hierarchies. They're supposed to be, parents are supposed to be in charge of children. Well, no, not anymore. It's supposed to be that bosses should be in charge of workers. Well, they try and overthrow that one. What school board dares to discipline the teachers union? They don't. And so this is, and nature is supposed to be subservient to man. Well, nature is now more important than man. You got to preserve the delta smelt rather than give people water to feed their crops. So this is what revolution is. It's overturning the natural hierarchies, and overturning the family is one of the most critical parts of that. This is where the radical feminist movement came from, completely controlled by communists. This is where the transgender movement comes from, also completely controlled by communists. The radical gay movement was started in America by Henry Hay, the Communist Party member, who was recruited to the Communist Party, by the way, by his homosexual lover, Will Gere, who you may know as Grandpa Walton. This is the transgender movement, the radical feminist movement, the gay movement. These are all communist movements. They're not designed to liberate transgenders or to liberate homosexuals. They're designed to break up and cause confusion in the family unit. Like I read the other day, 24% of California high school kids are unclear on what gender they are. Now, if I told you that that could be the situation 20 years ago, would you have believed it's even possible? Would you thought I was totally crazy to even say something like that?
I would have thought you completely crazy because by the time a child is 18, they already know who they are. It's less than 1% will then determine they don't know which gender they are. Less than 1%, like 1% of 1% is the actual biological number. But they have skewed this so badly because the child is not mentally and physically formed enough to make a decision. They can't smoke, they can't drive a car, they can't vote until they're a certain age and mental capacity. And yet you can tell them before they even go into puberty that they're not in the right body.
That's right. And you can mutilate them with lifelong consequences. Well, a lot of their lives won't be that long because a lot of them will commit suicide because of what's been done to them. But this is the thing. But what people need to understand, this is not just people being stupid. This is a deliberate communist program to cause massive confusion and weaken our society. And there's evidence that the transgender movement has actually been funded to some degree by the Chinese. So, you look at kids, if they don't kill them with fentanyl, which comes from China, the Chinese give tax incentives to the companies that produce the precursors to fentanyl, which are then shipped to the Mexican mob. If they don't indoctrinate you in schools, if they don't kill you with their fentanyl, and they don't send you mental with their pornography and their TikTok, well, then they're going to destroy you psychologically by telling you you're not even what your biology tells you are. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's just creating massive confusion. If you're not sure what gender you are you going to pick up a gun and fight an invading army? Are you going to charge the beaches of Normandy or Iwo Jima or whatever? There's no safe spaces. There's no place you can put your lipstick on. There's nothing like that. So you're going to be useless in defending this country, which is exactly what they want. In China, on their TikTok, they ban any reference to girly men. They do not want effeminate men. They want young men who will fight for their country. In America, they completely encourage that kind of stuff because they want young Americans who are so confused they don't even know what to do and they are useless in defending the country. This is a long-term military operation, as crazy as that might seem.
Well, I'll go even one step further because if they can't kill them in the womb, so you don't have a fighting American.
That's the other fact. Abortion has always been a communist movement.
If they're not in the womb, they're going to find some other way to destroy that life. So the Americans will not have a youth to come forward willing to fight for them.
Well,
but what we do have are the illegal aliens that are coming in from all these other countries that want to steal what we have and make it their own. And what better thing to fight for?
Well, and right, the Democrats, they have discouraged recruitment into the army because what young Christian boy wants to join a military where he's got to wear high heels and go to gender courses when he just wants to learn how to fight for his country? So they're discouraging recruitment by your normal recruit. And so now they're bringing illegal immigrants into the military, which is a pathway to citizenship. But look, a young boy from South Carolina is going to be very reluctant to fire on people from Tennessee. But a young man from Guatemala isn't going to have those problems. If he's from Guatemala or Ghana or whatever, and he's told to shoot Americans who are not behaving, he's going to have no problems.
Exactly. I'm looking at the clock. We're down to our last 7 minutes. And boy, I knew once I got you talking, there was going to be no stopping. But the final thing, just for the last 2 minutes here, the final thing, that the fifth thing is law. If they can invade the law, then they can also put in their communist agenda, which is what we have just seen this morning with the conviction of Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, if you weaponize this is what the model for American communism is Czechoslovakia in 1948. Czechoslovakia was one of the few countries that went communist in Europe that didn't have it enforced at the point of a gun. It was enforced in Latvia and Lithuania and Poland, Czechoslovakia, they voted it in. They voted in a coalition government with a strong communist component. They took over the Justice Department and the Internal Security Department, and they used the Justice Department to go after all the conservatives and bankrupted them and drove them out of the country. And in 3 years, they imposed communism on Czechoslovakia, 1948. That's the model. So you weaponize the justice system to go after the conservatives and the patriots, and you allow the left to do whatever they like Black Lives Matter, which is a Chinese communist operation. They can go on rampage and loot. But if you get caught taking a selfie on the Capitol Hill, you're going to jail in solitary confinement for 4 years. And so this two-tier justice system where conservatives are absolutely penalized and and criminals and leftists are let out on probation or just let out with nothing, that is very much part of the communist agenda, which is why people like Soros, who just got the Presidential Medal of Freedom from the communists.
Don't make me barf. Don't make me barf.
But that's the reason why he's been putting all these left-wing DAs in, because these left-wing DAs, their attitude is, you're a poor person, you're poor because you've been ripped off by the capitalists. So it's only just you go and steal their stuff. So why should we put you in jail? You're just doing what's right. So they allow all this crime, which breaks down cities, which destroys the tax base, which creates more poverty, more dependent people, more fearful people who are fodder for the revolution and will do what they're darn well told by the government. It's all, law is a critical part of the revolution. You know, the Communist Party set up the National Lawyers Guild in the 1930s as their front in the legal profession. They've infiltrated thousands of lawyers and judges into the system. President Trump ran up against many of them, you know, during his first term of office. You know, he'd put out do something, and some little twerp in the Ninth Circuit would say, no, you can't do that, President Trump. Well, the Ninth Circuit is absolutely full of communists. And of course, they will use their power to stymie anything President Trump does.
Well, Trevor, it's been a pleasure. It has been such a pleasure. My clock is absolutely run down. It has been so much fun. Yeah,
longer this time, Annie. But great to see you, and I'm glad you're doing well. And just a big shout out to all your viewers. Annie and I have gone back a long way, and it's great to have the privilege to be on your show again.
Well, it's great to see you again. I see you went a little gray, but
I just forgot to shave this morning.
Well, Trevor, you've got my love, and let me know when you come back, because the movie is Beneath Sheep's Clothing.movie, and your website people can get the New Zealand blog on, and your books at trevorlyron.com.
Got a new book about the Marxists behind Kamala Harris, and a new book about the Australian Prime Minister and his communism. And it might sound a bit out of Americans' view, but everybody's got to know what this guy's doing, because Trump needs to work with Australia against China, and their prime minister's a hardcore communist.
Well, Trevor, God bless you, and give my love to your bride.
Thank you so much, Annie, and all the best. And God bless all the viewers.
Trevor Loudon, check him out, trevorloudon.com, and Beneath Sheep's Clothing movie. With that, folks, I want to thank you for joining us. Curtis will be back with us next week. So until then, I say good night. And God.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross, mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust. And the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, in the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save